It's 2022, which means it's an even year, which also means maybe Northwestern has a chance to bounce back and win the West like they did in 2018 and 2020. Let's take a look at Northwestern. Before we get into the Wildcats, just a reminder to hit subscribe, ring the bell to stay notified. If you want to see Big Ten content all the time, this is the place to be. Hit subscribe, hit the bell to stay notified, to stay up to date on all things Big Ten. Season previews, once we get into the season, game previews, game reactions, it's all here, right on the channel. Now, in the open, I said it's an even year, and a lot of people have been using that in kind of a joking manner this preseason, and it kind of resembles the state of Northwestern football. It's, well, you won the West back in 2018, you win the West in 2020, and kind of in between those years, 2019, 2021, you have 3-9 seasons. It's a roller coaster from year to year, it seems like, for the Northwestern Wildcats. When you have a program like Northwestern, sometimes recruiting and sustained success can be a roller coaster because, you develop kids and you can go up and you got a lot of seniors and you look good, you pull some upsets, and then it goes down when you kind of got to regroup because maybe Northwestern doesn't have the attractiveness in terms of recruiting that other schools do have. But as we take a look at this season, look, last year was a bad year. This team looked bad. I'll get to their defense as the season goes along, but this was not a good football team. This was a struggle for Pat Fitzgerald and this team. But if I take a look at a strength of this team, and something that really stood out to me, it's Evan Hull in the running game. The Maple Grove native here from the Western Twin Cities. Evan Hull rushed for over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2021. That's after Cam Porter went down with an injury in the preseason. So Evan Hull comes in and he has a really good year. And not a lot of people talked about him because Northwestern was having such a bad year. But he rushed for over 1,000 yards, and he was a good-looking running back for the Wildcats last year. They struggled in a lot of areas, but maybe running the ball wasn't one of them. And I expect this year in 2022 for the running game to be a strength yet again. And that's how this offense is going to have good days, is they need to be physical and they need to be good in the running game. I mentioned Cam Porter. He was a Doak Walker Award list type of guy, watch list type of guy, heading in to the 2021 season before suffering that injury. And he led Northwestern in rushing back in 2020. I believe he's going to bounce back, and he's going to bounce back in a big way. And I'll kind of break down the offensive flow. And I think for Northwestern to be good, he needs to return to form. He needs to be the main guy at running back for this Wildcats team. If he does, and if he is that guy, good things could happen for the purple and white this season. In order for the running game to do well, Peter Skoronski, first team all Big Ten. This guy is going to be an NFLer for a very long time. He is the anchor right at left tackle of this offensive line. He's going to, plow holes there on the left side of the line. And this is a veteran offensive line. A lot of seniors, a lot of, a couple of juniors on this team. But this is a really experienced offensive line. I think it's going to be one of the better offensive lines in the Big Ten. So you factor in a couple of good returning running backs and a really good offensive line with a really good anchor at left tackle. You think things are going to go well, right? Well, now let's head to the passing game. Quarterback is a question here in fall camp. According to Pat Fitzgerald, there's a quarterback battle going on between Ryan Helinski and redshirt freshman Brendan Sullivan. Now here's a couple of strikes, so to speak, against Ryan Helinski. Okay, Helinski, 978 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. There was a lot of bouncing back between different quarterbacks. I think 3 started at one point. So that doesn't really bode well for Ryan Helinski, considering he was one of those guys last year and he couldn't really latch on to the starting quarterback job. And then you go into camp and you haven't separated yourself from a redshirt freshman coming in. I don't know. It just doesn't spell a lot of confidence in me as it pertains to Ryan Helinski being the guy and leading this team. Could Ryan Helinski be the week 0 starter? Of course he could against Nebraska. Will he stay the starting quarterback? That's a whole different conversation. boy, the last thing you want is quarterback flipping yet again for the second straight year. You need to get something figured out, and you want to get something figured out. But, you know, when you dive, you're in the middle of August and you haven't figured out a quarterback thing and you got a week 0 game, that's not a good sign at the quarterback position. And they're not going to be great at quarterback. Look, when Northwestern won Big Ten West titles in 2018 and 2020, their offense was not pretty. Look, this was an ugly offense. And, you know, if Northwestern wants to pull a few upsets and wants to do some things this year, it might have to be ugly offense again. And it's going to be circled around the running game. That's what's going to really drive the ship for Northwestern offensively. In the passing game, I look at Malik Washington at the wideout, 578 yards, 2 touchdowns in 2021. You know, outside of Washington and Bryce Kurtz, those are the only 2 guys that had 100 receiving or more yards that are returning to the team. Now, here's an idea. All right, here's an idea for the Northwestern Wildcats. Evan Hull, he was 3rd on the team in receiving yards last year. Remember, he got a bulk of the carries as the main running back after Cam Porter went down. 264 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. What if Cam Porter's the main guy? What if he's the workhorse back there in that backfield and he separates himself as number 1 back? Why don't you throw Evan Hull into the slot? Why don't you have him catch some passes and really bolster your receiving core? I could see them doing that, considering that he was a good pass catcher out of the backfield last year. We'll see if they can get him involved, get Porter and Hull on the field at the same time. I won't even charge for that idea. I won't even charge for that. Defense. This is a Pat Fitzgerald team. Usually linebackers and defense, right? When we look at that team of 2020 that gave Ohio State a run for their money early in that Big Ten championship game, it was the defense that kept them in games. But this was one of the worst defenses in the Big Ten. 29 points per game last year they gave up. 404 yards on average. I mean, you're not going to win football games like that. I don't care what conference you're in. I don't care if you're in Conference USA, the Big Ten, I don't care. It doesn't matter. You play that kind of defense, you're not going to win games. You're not going to win games. Brandon Josephs is a huge loss in that secondary. Okay, he transferred to Notre Dame. He was 3rd on the team in tackles, had 3 interceptions. Now, when I look at his replacement, I look at Coco Azima to kind of step in, 72 tackles, 4 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles at the safety position. Can he step in and replace a guy like Brandon Joseph? I'm not sure if he can replace him, but I think he's a solid option to try to make up some of that production. Of course, the bright spot of this defense is right in the middle, right where Pat Fitzgerald likes it, at the Mike linebacker position, Bryce Gallagher. 2nd on the team in tackles, had 90 tackles back in 2021. He's going to be the guy. If you're a team against Northwestern, you want to get to that 2nd level, you want to take Bryce Gallagher out of the play. Because Bryce Gallagher, if this is going to be a decent run defense, and they really struggled against the run, if this is going to be a good run defense, Bryce Gallagher needs to have a big season. But man, when I look around Bryce Gallagher, I don't see a lot. There are 3 transfers expected to step up to the defensive line. Neither of them have, and none of them, have really seen a lot of time elsewhere at their respective universities that they're coming from. But who knows? Maybe they'll gel well together. You know, the defense is going to have to take a step up because this is going to have to be a team that's going to have to run the ball and play really good defense. And that's the kind of team Northwestern has been in the past. Like I said, they don't have pretty offense. But I look at this defense, and it's really hard for me to see some positives coming out of this, to see an improved defense. You know, maybe they'll jump from 12th to 10th in the Big Ten. You know, will it be as bad last year? Well, you know, you've got a little bit of experience coming back. But then again, you're losing a guy like Brandon Joseph on the back end. It's hard for me to be optimistic. And I'm an optimistic guy. I'm a positive guy. But it's really hard for me to look at Northwestern and say, yep, these things are going to go well defensively. I just don't see it. Offense, I think you move some things around. Look, their skill positions and their offensive line are okay. You know, their offensive line is good. Skill positions, you might have a couple of things to work with, get some surprise guys to step up at wide receiver, but the quarterback position is what concerns me. Whether it's Helinski or Sullivan, I kind of mentioned that previously in the video, why Helinski being in a quarterback battle concerns me. I don't think they're going to get great play out of the quarterback position, and you need to get great play out of that position. I think it's going to be a tough year again for Northwestern. I don't see the even year thing kind of coming and bouncing back, especially considering what other teams look like in the West Division, including their in-state rival Illinois, that has taken a big step up under Brett Bielema, it's really hard for me to see Northwestern taking a step up from what happened a year ago. I want to hear your thoughts. Where do you see the surprise in Northwestern? Are they going to be the surprise of the Big Ten, or are we going to see more of what we saw like we saw in 2021? Leave your thoughts, comments below. Make sure you subscribe for more Big Ten previews and all sorts of Big Ten content here on the channel. I'm Big Ten Ted, and we'll see you in the next one.